Welcome to the Innovation Conversation, a podcast about innovators, both in business and real life. Hosted by myself, Ricardo Pascual, and Hannah and Martina. Today's episode is sponsored by Hyperskill. Hyperskill is a learning and training platform that enables people from all over the world to learn new tech skills. If you're looking to learn new tech skills, this is a platform to choose. You can find out more about them on hyperskill.org. Today we are talking with Hannah and Martina from Altruist.com and their goal to change the fashion industry by upcycling clothes.
Welcome to the Innovation Conversation, Hannah and Martina. It's a pleasure having you both here. And me and Harry are quite excited to learn more about the Altruist. So can you tell us what the Altruist is?
So we are a platform for upcycle fashion designers. So each designer specializes in upcycling techniques, and they use their creativity to turn waste into new products. But a little bit more than just being a platform, we're a bit of a community, and Marty will tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. We are a community, mainly of around 85 designers at the moment. It's a growing community. Our designers are all based around Europe and UK, so that's also beautiful after Brexit, especially. Try to keep people together. They all work with different techniques. They are all single brands, single individuals, single artists. So they all have a word, an entire word behind their work, and it would be hard to explain every single designers, but as Hannah said, the main focus is reworking materials that otherwise would have been discarded. Because maybe Hannah can also tell a bit more about what's the problem nowadays with fashion.
Well, you just asked the question. So, what is the problem nowadays with fashion? Because I just go to the shop and buy clothes. I think Harry's pretty much the same, right? But I think there's a lot of wastage. I read somewhere that on average people wear their garments, 6 times or 8 times, and then it goes to the trash, which is absolutely crazy. But
yeah, it's mental. The problem's massive, but what we specifically focus on is textile waste. And so it's estimated about 100 billion pieces of clothing are produced each year, and less than 1% of these are recycled. So currently they end up in landfills or incinerated. And why we choose upcycling is 50% of these still can be upcycled. But I think it's a global problem that previously the West have really put on everyone else to deal with, and it's getting out of control. I'm not sure if you've seen some pictures of textile waste lately, but it's a growing problem that if it's not tackled, it's just gonna keep growing.
Absolutely. Also because with the growth of fast fashion, which is great that fashion is accessible for people who have low income. Fair enough, great. But the issue is that most of the material they use are non-sustainable material. Most of the garment they made in very poor conditions for the workers. So it's not only the textile waste, but it's also the entire system that is behind the fashion industry. And most of the time it's funny because most of the time we think that fast fashion is the only problem, but absolutely not, because most of the brands they produce at the same in the same model the fast fashion produce.
Cotton takes 2,700 litres to create a pair of jeans or a cotton t-shirt. So when you think about that, and all that water's going into it, not to mention all the rest of the resources, and then it's the cotton might be grown in one country, then flown to another country to be spun, then another to be made, and then it ends up in the UK. And as you mentioned, it gets worn 6 times and then it goes in the bin. That carbon footprint, and that even the labor, the materials, and the resources that go into creating that is insane. And then it's a perfectly good cotton t-shirt. It might have a tiny little hole, or it might have a little stain, but designers can cut that out and they can rework it and turn it into something new. That's the beauty of upcycling. It's the materials may be alternative, they may be worn once, they may just be something out of style, or they may be offcuts, or they may be an old curtain, and these materials, they've had a life, but they're perfectly good. It just takes creativity and imagination to turn them into a new product.
So where did this creativity and imagination come from? Where did you two meet? How did you come up with all this process? Because again, it's being creative is a different thing, but putting your ideas together is a whole different story, and it'd be quite nice for our audience to get an understanding of how did you come up with, or how did you meet in the first place?
Yeah, so we were actually activists and we were organising campaigns and against the fashion industry, and we were very much raising awareness to this problem. And I think we both felt that like rather than calling for change, and a lot of this was falling on deaf ears. You often hear a lot of brands within the industry being like, yeah, we'll change our habits, and I guess it's rife with greenwashing, as we mostly know. But we kind of decided that we wanted to also offer a solution, and we've been working within the space. We knew a lot of designers specializing in upcycling, and we saw that as the most sustainable way forward. So we kind of came together and we decided to build this platform that brought upcycle fashion designers into the limelight. I think too often they are not really appreciated for the skill that goes into it, and we really wanted to, showcase what they can do.
And how are you finding, raising money for this idea? Because it's, at least for me personally, I normally wear clothes until they have gigantic holes on them, and everyone says, look, you cannot wear this anymore because it's time to go to the bin. That's how I like to wear my clothes. But how are you finding, investors looking at it and say, actually, it's a really good idea, I want to invest in this, I want to grow the company. So what's the market telling you?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty early in our funding journey, to be honest. We basically came up with the idea, and we've been supported really by grants, so up until this stage. So we bootstrapped it, we've just launched, at the end of last year, and really we kind of opened our funding round a couple of weeks ago. So in terms of that,
so it's quite new.
Pretty new, yeah. We've been bootstrapping and granting it up until now, and I think so. We've had a lot of awards and we've been nominated for a lot of things. So I think that shows that the industry sees potential in what we're doing, and the fact that we can genuinely make an impact. So we're just waiting for the right investor to jump on board and join us on that. But I think also, being a sustainable company, it needs to be the right person. We just don't want anyone to back our company. We want someone who understands our mission and our core values, and will join this kind of mission with us sustainably.
It's interesting because a lot of companies nowadays, you can actually go, I think it's H&M, you can bring them a bag full of your old clothes and they will do something with it. I don't know what they do with it, but I know they'll do something with the clothes, right? And it's interesting. I think, we're becoming more conscious of what's happening with our clothes and our wastage and, our ecological footprint and all that. So I guess the next question will be around, how do you see this growing? What do you see the future? Like, you're becoming this gigantic online marketplace of upcycled fashion, or what's in the future?
So we don't see as a gigantic old platform, because the point is that we are trying to move forward by this idea of becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. What we were thinking to do in the future, it would be open kind of localized hubs around the world, where you basically tend to share and to exchange what is available in the country. So in a way, the designers in Australia, they're gonna sell to consumer in Australia, as well the designers in Europe, they're gonna sell to European consumers. That's also because it's related to the shipping. We always forgot about in the fashion industry, and behind our clothes there are a lot of other industry involved. So that's what we are trying to tackle in fashion, but to change a little bit the perception, the how we deal with clothes, with our look, with our aesthetic, and all the values that can be hidden behind it.
So, a question for our listeners is, what's the difference between upcycling and recycling? I think this is a big topic for you, both of you. So what is the difference?
Yeah, so I mean, because there's often a lot of confusion, and there isn't a lot of regulation around recycling at the moment. So you can have something that's only a small percentage that is actually recycled, and the rest be virgin fibers, and you can say that it's recycled. So it's really important for us to be really transparent, and one of the major differences is that recycling relies on the use of chemicals and mechanical procedures to break down something before it can be made into something new. Whereas upcycling is using materials in its current form, and it's simply using creativity and design to turn that into something new. It requires no additional resources, and for that reason it is one of the most sustainable things you can currently do, and that's really why we chose to focus on it.
Imagine that like is a bit what I think is that is a bit more related to the craftsmanship, so like going back to like our grandparents, how they were making things is like is a bit more related to that. So like while for instance to recycle plastic you need to melt it, use machinery and whatever, like an upcycle designer could still reuse plastic but maybe like keeping its form and like create something by stitching, by like using like techniques that, as she said, like are not like energy consuming, not that much as you would do like with recycle.
But then also a byproduct of the fact that it comes down to craftsmanship and that all the designer and they're doing things themselves, is that pretty much everything or part of limited edition collections and often one of a kind, meaning these pieces are unique and really special, and it's obviously taken the designer's vision to see maybe a pile of scraps or a plastic or some bottle caps to then turn that into something that you can really only get from them.
Yeah, I want to kind of draw back on that slightly, because again it's a really great approach what you've mentioned, and I've heard the word innovation and grant and all these approaches which so many tweaks, and what would be really good for the listeners and the audience is, how did you actually start off with your first grant? Because again, did you go on the bandwagon of you have an idea and it applies to what the UK economy is really looking at, which is circular economy, recycling, upselling, and going on those big buzzwords? Did they really help you with actually getting your grant and kind of getting you over the line and being there at the right time? Was that kind of the big push as well?
Yeah, I mean, our first accelerator program was no funding. It was it was the University of Cambridge. They had a CSIL on sustainable fashion. I think we didn't start it because we were like, this is what buzzwords that will get us to the next stage. We started it from like the genuine space of we wanted to do something for the fashion industry, and this is what we truly believed was the best way forward. But like with every idea, you need backing to get it from A to B. So I think our second accelerator program, Startup Bootcamp, Fashtech, there was some funding behind that, and they were very much interested from a sustainable fashion perspective, but they were also looking at kind of fashion innovation as a whole. But then, we were lucky enough to get an Innovate UK grant, and I think that was to do with the creative industry. So I'm not sure if it was the fact that it was what we were doing. I assume that it was a lot to do with the fact that we were tackling a major problem within the industry, but I think equally the fact that we're working within the circular economy and the creativity is really what has kind of been important to driving us forward.
It's a good time for it, because I know Creative UK have now come up with a £50 million grant to go out into the local economy to help support businesses like yourselves to develop, grow new approaches on that side. So it is really good timing, I would say, because creativity is what the UK lacks, and there's a huge focus on this point in time. And it's something to, one, the fact that you won a grant from Innovate UK, congrats, because that is, again, as we said before, it is literally like winning the lottery. It is hard. Well, do you know how many people apply for that? You're probably looking at around 900 to 1,000 plus applicants, and very strong applicants with university ties and links. So that's hard to do on that side. And is there any advice to kind of give in regards to someone going after that? Like, how would you prepare? Would you kind of go out and find an industry partner, a university, be on an accelerator and have key individuals behind you, or just kind of go for it yourself?
I mean, we just did it ourselves. I think we know the subject in and out. Like, as I mentioned, as we kind of talked about, we've been activists within this space for a long time. So we really, really have researched this through and through, and we're really passionate about what we're doing, and we truly believe in how we can make an impact. So I think comes down to knowing what you're talking about, believing in it enough to have researched it through and through, and then I think that is what I would say. If
I'm myself a fashion designer, originally I was a fashion designer, and it's like one of the I quit all my jobs in fashion, to be fair, because I perfectly know how it works in the fashion industry. I work from production to design, marketing, and that's why I decided to quit them, join an activist group, and that's how we met together. So it's like there's like honestly like there's a lot of problems in the fashion industry, and again I'm gonna repeat it forever. It's like every time people are thinking that fashion is just matter of like how you look clothes, but there's a full industry. Like most of the garments nowadays are made of oil, like so just saying that is like I mean I think it's enough to say like
so how competitive is your space?
Oof.
That would be a good one. What is the competition like? How competitive is it? Is it really, really, really competitive, or is it you've got something?
The fashion industry is competitive. There's a lot of people breaking into it constantly. Within the upcycle space, we are one of the kind of the first platforms specifically dedicated to them. There is platforms, one or two in Europe that have kind of popped up. But really, it's kind of good that there are competitors in the space popping up, because it's just really driving the upcycle movement forward. So I think when we first came up with the idea, it wasn't as well known, and now there is more and more in that space. But it really only helps the cause. Like, one platform can't fix the whole industry. There has to be a lot of people collectively working together and collaborating to tackle the fashion industry's waste problem.
And last one before I pass it back over to Ricardo, because I know I've hogged a lot on this side. Would you actually collaborate with them in the European markets?
Yes,
or would you want to be
like
there?
that's what I was like. I was silent here, but in my I think that like nowadays we should also like because we are like in an emergency situation, like whether we like it or not, we are like there's people that are more lucky than others. Is that we should start to think about like competition as an healthy like things, and it's like why not collaborate with competitors? It's like we might be better in something, they might be better in something else, and if we are all tackling the same problem, our mission is solving a problem, so we should like join forces together to solve that, and that's something that you don't see in general. Like I never seen that in my past, but not only in fashion. It's like there's always this thing of competition, being better than others. It's like even from our values, like one of our values is collaborations. Like it's fundamental. You need to learn and collaborate from others. Like that's basic for the future, no?
It is. I agree with you 100%. So what advice would you give to people starting out their company in this space or the ecosystem? What do you think? Actually, don't do this mistake that we've done. Go the other way. What would you say is like the way forward?
I mean, I don't think that you ever make a mistake. I think you learn from everything that you do, really. And I think, it's been a up and down journey, but I think that's really got us to where we are today. And I think we've learned so much. But I think if you've got an idea, do your research, know what you're going into, actually genuinely care about the problem, because it's so easy to start up something and be like, oh, I'm going to start up a business. But I think to have the longevity and to really stick it out, there has to be something that you are passionate about. So I think follow your passion and turn that into a business.
That's good advice. I would love to see, every time I go clothes shopping, I would love to actually see something upcycled for once, right? Because you can go, I'm just going to name the brand here, but you can go and buy from Index, so things in Zara and Massimo Dutti and whatnot, right? And then they have like, at least they do it in Portugal, they have this other shop called Lefties, which is everything that wasn't sold on Zara, it goes to Lefties. And sometimes it's actually pretty decent clothes. And I was like, I always wanted to find a way of mixing them all together. So they take those fabrics, repurpose them, upcycle them, and I can buy them in Zara again, and they actually look nice and they're going to last for a long time. But yeah, there's definitely need there in the market, right?
So the problem with Zara, for instance, the problem with Zara is apart from the quality of materials, it's like also related to the fact that their business model
it's fast fashion.
It's quite fast and quite projected to increase only. That's what we need to stop. That's what we are trying. That's the problem with them. It's like. Until they're gonna exist, they're gonna be the problem of massive textile waste. We already have textile waste from minor companies and minor brands which don't maybe produce in these big scales, and maybe it could be good enough to stop a bit the mass production of these giant companies that they just want to extend because they just want to make more profit. It's clear. It's we know that. It's we know that.
Yeah, but it's so annoying, isn't it? Because you buy like a jacket and think, oh, this jacket's gonna last. but then next season you need to buy a new jacket because the material is absolutely horrible and now the jacket is completely destroyed. Where if you were to buy a jacket, I don't know, 20 years ago, a leather jacket, you know that's going to last you for a lifetime, right? Because it's a really good leather, so forth, so on. And I'm not advocating buying leather jackets or not, but if you buy good fabrics, they're going to last. Whereas now, it's always horrible fabric.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. It's also related to the collection that they launch. So every month they launch a new collection. So they make you feel that if you don't have the collection of 3 months before, you're not cool.
Which is why we're also
That's
really,
a problem.
we really want to focus on kind of teaching people about individual styles. So because we've got so many different designers and they all have their own techniques, there's no trends, there's no seasons. They just really focus on buying from independent designers because you like it, not because you're being told to buy something from them, because you really appreciate what they do and you think it's cool and you want to support
whatever
them.
you do,
So I think that's something else that we really want to push, which I think is really important messaging against what fast fashion really stands for.
You kind of buy a piece of art in a way, like, and
that's a good thing. That's
and
brilliant.
you're gonna love what you need to love what you're wearing. You need to love your clothes. Like that's the thing. You're not gonna, I don't know, if you have a girlfriend or a wife, are you gonna like bean her after 3 months because it's old? You know what I mean? Like,
well, hopefully, in a relationship you don't get old after 3 months, but
but you know what I mean? Like, if you love something, you want it for you. You want to keep it for you. That's what we should do, like with our clothes.
I love doing that with my clothes. It's sometimes to the embarrassing point. Like I said, there's literally holes in my clothes, and people need to tell me stop wearing it because it's too much. But I love doing it.
You can always repair it. That's the thing. Is like
not the way I wear them though. I can guarantee that beyond repair.
But like we have designers for you that they can repair them.
Exactly.
Like a new fashion statement.
No, it could be
Holes on the nipples.
Because sometimes I associate. I don't know about you, but I normally associate some clothes with emotions and periods of my life. So I have a T-shirt. It's gonna sound embarrassing. That says 1984, and I love it. Every time on my birthday, I put it on. I'm like, okay, I feel happy. And then I have this red shirt that looks like a tablecloth. You know the proper tablecloths. I have it, and it's 20 years old now, and it's still good. And the moment that it rips out, I want to find not a replacement. I want to find someone to fix the shirt.
Yeah,
or it means something to me. Right? Exactly, or upcycle it.
Yeah,
exactly,
they could turn it into a hat or something cool.
Something cool, and I still have that memory. So
yeah,
absolutely. Like it's also funny to see sometimes. Like I'm still using clothes from when I was 11, and it's funny because when I was 11, like the fashion was kind of baggy. It's coming back now. Yeah. Like and now I'm wearing like trousers that they were baggy like at the time, and now they fit me properly. So you can also see like how much you grow. Like.
So would you ever work with charity shops going on that area about upcycling and reusing old items that are now going back into fashion? And then I see the nods on that side. Would you ever work with let's say, recycling plants?
So yeah, and honestly, that's kind of one thing we're working on at the moment. Is we want to launch we talked about collaboration. We want to launch our collaboration program, and this is where we'll work with brands, manufacturers, and charity stores, and collaborate with them to creatively reutilize their offcuts, like their damaged stock or things like that. Because I mean, the thing is, with upcycling, the fact that a design is it really is endless what their creativity can do to a limit, of course. But so we really want to move into that space because that way we can create more impact.
What about local councils? I know it's going to sound bad, but working with local dumps or garbage facilities, because a lot of people, if they are affluent or not, they will throw away excessive amounts of clothes into these recycling plants that are literally associated with council dumps. Now, some of the clothes, and if you go down to one in Watford, it's actually what they do is they take all these items and try and resell them, because a lot of the clothes are actually very high end. It's just no one really appreciates the value. But they have mountains and mountains that they can't get rid of, and unfortunately they either have to burn it or ship it over to China, who's now shipping it over to Philippines and that region. So it's a vicious cycle. Would you ever consider working with the councils on that side?
Some of our designers are already getting materials out of the dump. They'll find these incredible fabrics that have just been a roll of fabric that's just been thrown out, and they'll turn it into. So I think a lot of our designers are already accessing those resources, and we definitely would. I think at the end of the day, we need to change our attitudes to textile waste. Just because something's been thrown onto the street doesn't mean that it didn't have all these resources that it went into creating it in the first process. And you can wash it and it's perfectly good. So it's there's no reason why we wouldn't. I think it's really important to to focus on those places as well.
Yeah, sounds good. If people want to find you, where can they find you online? So if they want to reach out and say, hey, I love the idea, how can they do that?
If to reach out, like,
Yeah.
so it depends like who you are. Like if you're a designer, like we have in our website, but as well on our Instagram, some forms where you can just apply, and it's pretty easy. It's a form, you apply, you answer the question, and we're gonna get in touch. If you are someone else, like, there's always, you can always write us or on Instagram or through our website. You can find our email address and you can drop us an email. Like, we're happy to collaborate. Honestly, like, we talk about like creativity of our designers, but our businesses as well. Like, we're really open to any kind of collaboration because that's what we need nowadays. So
And I'll just give the handle.